guys, welcome back to my channel and another video here. I wanted to hop on and film a quick intro to this video because it's a little bit differently formatted than most of my videos. It's kind of a vloggy voiceover style video. But what this video is something that has been a long time coming. I want to show you guys how I organize my collection and kind of why I do it the way I do. When I sat down to write out the outline for this, I realized there was a lot more to it than I had really realized when I'm doing it, every day. So what I've done is I've broken it down step by step into each segment of organization that I do in my own personal collection. I'm going to show you today what happens, the process that a brand new nail polish goes through when it arrives to my collection, step by step, and at each step, I'm going to offer you guys some pros and cons to my method, as well as some alternatives that I could see working for different purposes. That way you guys can kind of take a look at everything and pick and choose what you may want to add, what you love, what you hate, into your own organization methods if you so choose to. And it's almost like a organizational lookbook, if you will, because this is how I ended up choosing how to organize my own collection. I watched a ton of different people's organization videos when it came to their nail polish and just their hobbies in general. And I pulled little bits and pieces from everybody's kind of methods, and I cobbled together my own Frankenstein of a method here. And I found that was really helpful just to kind of personalize it to myself. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to present for you guys today. And I will throw some timestamps down so you can, skip to whatever step you want to if you're the type that likes to skip around in a video. I think that watching videos like this and doing research like this is really important when you want to implement something new into your collection, especially if you have a larger collection, because that way you can kind of make an informed decision before you spend a lot of money investing into some kind of item for your collection and an organization method that maybe it costs a lot of money and you end up hating. And keep in mind, all of this is completely optional. You don't have to have a method. You don't have to organize anything if you love chaos in your life. I don't love chaos in my life. I'm actually currently surrounded by chaos because I was reorganizing again. But if you don't want to do any of this, you don't have to. That's the beauty of this. It's all about personal preference. And if you are investing into a method that just isn't working for you, you don't have to do that, because at the end of the day, it's just going to make you miserable. It's going to make you want to avoid your hobby that you love. And that's the last thing we want. If at the end of this video, you're like, what makes me happy is dumping all of my nail polish into a shoebox and just kind of like digging around in that every time I want to paint my nails, good. That's good. That's great for you. I could never do that. But if that's what makes you happy, then that's your method. That's all you need, a shoebox. Organization is not and never will be a one-size-fits-all type of thing. For example, for me, in every aspect of my life, I need everything laid out by color, by size, by brand. I like to have liked things grouped together. My boyfriend's preferred method of organization is in a large pile in the middle of the floor. And that's what works for him. Not for me, but for him. I like everything, front facing, labels clearly visible. I could have a cabinet perfectly laid out and I could say, can you go grab me the salt, and all the spices are in alphabetical order and all the labels are facing out. He'd just gloss right over it because his brain just doesn't think that way. His brain doesn't think in an ordered fashion. So, however, if I ask him where are the car keys, he knows exactly which floor pile they're in and he can go and grab those immediately. So, our brains all work a little differently. So, with that long-winded intro being said, let's hop right into step number 1, which is probably the most fun step, and that is acquire nail polish. You have to have nail polish in order for any of this to work. I mean, I guess you could use this method for other hobbies, but basically we all know how to get nail polish. You go to the drugstore, you go to Ulta, you can order it online. If you guys want a video of me talking about the ways that I shop for nail polish, the best places to go to get the best deals, etc., let me know. But ultimately, you just got to get some nail polish. Now, if you're like me and you already had a collection before you started organizing, you already have the nail polish. And if you want to start organizing, I recommend doing it earlier rather than later, because starting small with like less than 100, it takes a lot less time than when you are trying to integrate hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of polishes into a system that you are implementing. It takes so long. So if you're doing this from like zero, you have like almost no polish, then this shouldn't be too bad. But if you have a really big collection and you are just starting this, spread it across a couple days, a couple weeks. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed, because once you have this, it'll become a well-oiled machine and it'll be so much easier to add polishes in as you acquire them. But like I said, you got to start somewhere. So either you've bought some polish or you are starting with your full collection. I saved up several polishes over the course of the month, and I'm going to show you that starting in step number 2, how I integrate those polishes into my system. Okay, so step 2 in my personal process is taking inventory and updating my Excel sheet. I'm sure several of you have seen my Excel sheet video by now. If not, I will link it up in the cards in the upper right-hand corner over here. But you might be wondering, like, Hillary, why do you do this? It seems excessive, right? Well, I do this for a lot of reasons. It's nice to have your whole inventory right in front of you all at once without having to dig through drawers or swatch sticks or anything like that. It's super accessible like this. It's a super quick, easy reference guide that I can use when I'm out shopping, or, recently in the past year or so, I use this a lot when I make videos, when I'm thinking about content. I sometimes just scroll through this and, decide on types of content I want to do based on just what I have. But if you are a collector, one thing I've learned is it is actually a really smart idea to have a list like this. And, typically it's for people who collect rarer stuff. But when I was a kid, I had a friend whose dad's trailer burnt down and he lost his entire collection of DVDs. And the guy had kept a list of every DVD he owned, every movie he ever bought, because he was a huge movie guy. And he turned that into his insurance, and they paid him out based on the cost of all those movies. And so ever since then, I'm like, oh, I should probably keep a list of everything in my collections, because it could help me in some way. And so this has helped me in a lot of ways. So this has changed just a little bit since the last time you guys have probably seen it. So just a real quick overview. I have the brand, the collection of the polishes in, the polish itself, the color of the polish, the finish, any secondary notes. So like if it's a stamping polish, a thermal, magnetic, I have like halal polishes, I have minis, just extra notes that I might need to know. I have how many times it's been worn, and this uses a formula that references a different sheet. For more details on that, like I said, check my video. And then I have denoted if it has been swatched. That way I know if I need to take a picture of it still. I have the cost at which I purchased the polish, the date that I bought it, and where I got the polish from. So you can see, like, I bought all these Holo Tacos from Holo Taco. I have ILMP D-stashes from different places, things like that. Now, I do have this sheet linked in every single one of my description boxes, and you guys can make a copy of it and save it to your own Google Drive if you prefer. Don't request to edit it. Make a copy for yourself to your drive. If you request to edit it, I have to ignore that, because unfortunately, if you edit it, I believe it edits like right in the drive, and then other people who come to use it can't use it properly. So if you want to use this sheet, make a copy to your drive. Don't request to edit my sheet. So let me show you really quick just how I'll talk you through the first polish I add, but I have like 40 polishes I need to add. So I'm going to add these in, and then I will talk to you about like the pros and cons of this method, as well as some alternatives. So the first polish I have to add is a Bee's Knees lacquer polish. And this, I believe, is from the Lore Olympus collection. Collections I'm not as uptight about as all the other information. That's just like a reference thing, and I hope I get it right. But if I don't, it's not the end of the world to me. The polish is You're Not That Weird. Sorry if you guys can hear my clicky typing. I have a mechanical keyboard, and it is a blue polish. So usually what I do is I just scroll up and I find a blue and then I just copy and paste it because I'm lazy. And this is a shimmer polish. And I don't have any secondary notes to it. I could write like, oh, it's sheer, but that's not really one of my categories. But just if you wanted to add something like that, you could. Or you could denote like how many coats it takes or something like that. And then this is another formula, this worn all time. Oh, well, I guess I talked about this earlier, but yeah, I just drag it down. That's nice about formulas is you can just drag them down in Excel. Oops. And it will tell you, or it'll just like add the formula into the next box. Now I know I have swatched this, so I'm going to enter that in there. This was $0 for me, and I got it on May 7th. And that is because it was a gift from Carolina of Gotta Love Polish. So I denote that as a gift. So I will just start adding the rest of my polishes slowly in here, and I will give you kind of a full rundown of everything. So let's talk about some of the pros and the cons for this method, the Excel sheet method, at least in my eyes, right? So the biggest pro for me and the biggest reason why I chose this over any other option is it is customizable to every degree you could ever want. You can add in any columns you want. I have brand, collection, polish, color, finish, notes, times worn, if I've swatched it or not, the buy price, the buy date, and where I got it from. That's a lot of information. Some people just want the polish name and the color. Like you can do whatever you want, remove, add, anything. So it's super customizable, and I really like that. Another pro is you can take this anywhere with you because everybody has smartphones now. So I just access it from my phone constantly through the Google Drive app. You can access it from anybody's computer as long as they have internet. It's really, really convenient in that way. And it's easy to share with other people. You can make Google Docs shareable. So, if you and a friend maybe both have really big collections and you don't want to overlap each other because you share polishes or something like that, you could share your drive with each other and you could peek at each other's collection or something like that. And the final pro, and one of the biggest pros, I think, is it is free. Google Drive is free up to a certain amount of storage. I use Google Drive for everything. I save all my pictures, all my documents, everything on there. I have yet to exceed the limit that they give you for data size. And even then, you can buy more data if you need to. But this sheet is not data heavy. And so I feel like, you're probably never going to have to pay for it. And there are other free options too, but they might be a little bit more limited. So as far as cons go, I would say probably the biggest con as far as this method goes is all of the labor and all of the data input is on you, unfortunately. So if you start this when you have a small collection, it's probably not a big deal. But if you have like 100 or even like 1,000 polishes, and you decide, I'm going to put all my stuff in a spreadsheet now, it's going to take quite a lot of time. It's a labor of love, I swear to you. But once you get it all in there and then you just regularly update it, it becomes very easy to maintain. So every single time I buy a polish, like you saw, I add it in here. Usually I don't have 40 plus polishes to add because as soon as I buy a polish, it goes right into my sheet, but I saved it so you guys could kind of see how the process works. Another con is you kind of do need some minor knowledge in Excel formulas if you want it to work pretty seamlessly. Like my particular spreadsheet, certain sheets reference other sheets in order to get certain data. You don't have to get that fancy, but you do need to at least be slightly comfortable with Excel. This is technically a Google document, but it's kind of similar. A lot of the formulas work the same, if not like exactly the same. So if you don't have that, it might be a little bit hard at first, but trust me, I swear, Excel is very, very easy to learn, and there are so many tutorials online. It might be a little bit dry, but you will find that you are using Excel in aspects of your life you never thought you would. I use Excel every single day, and that's not including at my job because I use it for so many different lists and things like that. And the last con, which is kind of like a neither here nor there kind of a thing, but it matters to some people. This is ugly. Like it could be considered very ugly to a lot of people. Some of the apps are a little bit more dressed up, and there's prettier ways to organize and like compile data for your collection. This is very straightforward, kind of bare bones. You can even dress it up. Some people, they dress it up with colors and borders and things like that. I haven't felt the desire to do it because I just really want it to be a very straightforward thing to look at. The place that I start to dress up is kind of my storage units and my Swatch sticks and things like that. But for some people, this is just not the aesthetic they want. So I have compiled a little bit of a list of alternatives to my method if this doesn't work for you, because not everything works for everybody. So under the technology umbrella, there are quite a lot of apps out there that do a similar process. Recently, I reviewed one called Lacquergram, and I will link that video in the cards, but I do think it's a great alternative for people who don't want to deal with a sheet like this, because it does have a lot of good options to add your own notes in and stuff like that. It worked really well for these purposes. And I've seen some other apps as well, like the nail polish rack. And there was a website called Lacquer Tracker, which might be good alternatives as well. But I have not delved into those in the same way that I did with Lacquergram, so I can't, recommend them one way or the other. So as far as the pros go for the technological, like app side of things, again, it's all digital, so it's very easy to carry around with you as long as you have a smartphone or a laptop. The other big pro for these apps is it's a lot more intuitive and easy than starting from scratch like you would with my Excel sheet. And another big pro is most of these have a free version, and you can pay a little bit more for some upgraded features, but as far as the free version goes, you have pretty much everything you need. One of the big cons I would say is not everyone learns to navigate apps super easily. Not all apps are created equally as far as like an intuitive interface goes. And not everybody is great with or is comfortable with technology. One of the big things that even I had an issue with in the Lacquergram one was my wrists hurt from trying to put all my nail polish in on my phone, just typing like that. It's much easier for me to type at a keyboard. So that was something to keep in mind. And one of the cons is kind of similar to one of the pros, is some have really great features behind a paywall, so they are not entirely free. Now, if you don't want to be bothered with technology, there is also the good old-fashioned pen and paper. And this one is nice, but you can't move things around on a list very easily when it's handwritten, unless you have to like erase everything and then rewrite it somewhere else, which can get messy. One thing I did think of was there's a notebook that is magnetic, like the pages are magnetic, and you could move those around, or you could even just use like a 3-ring binder, and you could dedicate pages to one brand or one color, or somehow keep certain groups together. And if you need to add a page in, you just pop one in and move the sheets around however you want. And the binder method would be a lot cheaper than those magnetic notebooks. I got one as a gift once, and they're really cool, and you can buy more sheets of paper, but it does get expensive over time with something like that. You could also even add a little paint swatch from your polish onto the paper, which is like the biggest thing that I like about that method versus a digital method, because you can see it exactly as it's supposed to look. So the pros for this method, one of the pros is most of us have a fairly easy time writing things down, so it's not like it's an inaccessible thing for most people. And the other pro is most of you, I think, would already have paper and pens lying around your house. Now, I could be wrong. I'm a stationery queen, so I have pens and papers and notebooks and binders and every single thing you could ever want. But I think it's pretty common to at least have an old notebook or something. And the biggest con is it's pretty hard to reorganize once it's written down, so you kind of want to know the order ahead of time. Another con is you do have to pay for the supplies in this method. It's not like a free Google Drive or a free phone app or anything like that. And this last con is one of those where I think it's just my brain being a little bit crazy, but I just keep thinking about that one episode of SpongeBob where the old guy was in the retirement home and he writes his entire life story in red ink, and he's so proud of it. And then a bunch of like red Kool-Aid floods the old folks' home and drenches his memoir written entirely in red ink. and it makes it entirely illegible. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I spilled like water or something on these papers? They would be completely destroyed and you don't have a backup. So those are just a few extra methods that you might want to employ if you're interested in tracking your collection. For me personally, the Excel sheet has worked wonders. I've been using it for years at this point, and it's kind of like an extension of myself at this point, as crazy as it sounds, but I really do love this sheet. And I love showing it to people because their faces when they understand it, it's hilarious to me. So that is it for step 2, and we will jump right into step 3. So step 3 is to make swatch sticks. After I've added the polish to my Excel sheet, which you saw in the last step, I make a swatch stick, and here is a whole bunch of completed ones. It probably seems excessive to have a swatch reference when I also have the sheet that I just showed you, but this is for a more visual color comparison, and it's really easy to snag these off the wall or wherever you're storing them and just fan them out like this and peek through. You can hold multiple together to compare. You can take them off and move them around. So I really like that, especially for like duping purposes or deciding what I want to wear. Or if somebody's like, oh, can I borrow some nail polish from you? I can. Nobody's ever asked me that, by the way. So somebody come over and let's paint our nails. But I can literally just show them a picture of all of this, and then they can decide what they want to wear. And I also just really like the way they look on the wall. I know some people, I've said this in other videos, some people will say it looks like a nail salon or kind of cheap. I don't know. I like it. I think it's cute and fun. And if I don't like it, I can take it down later. It doesn't matter. So for this step, you will need a couple of things, and I'm going to show you what you need, but I will also have links down in the description. I usually do for these kind of tools. They are going to be likely Amazon affiliate links, so just please know, like, if you're clicking those links, it does earn me just a little bit of kickback anytime you purchase through one of those links, and I really appreciate it when you guys do. So the first thing I would say you would need is binder rings. I find that this is the easiest way to keep everything together. You could use string if you really wanted. I just like the binder rings. The size is completely up to you. But I use these smaller ones. I think they're like 1.5 inches, but like I said, I will have it linked down below. And I usually put between 10 and 15 sticks on each of these. You can fit more, but the reason I do it like that is due to the weight constraints of the command hooks I use on my wall. You can put as many as you want or as few as you want. And then on these bigger ones, these are like 3-inch binder rings. For the most part, I put between 5 and 6 of the smaller rings on there. So you can see this one has 6 rings on there. And I find that that's about the max that my wall can anchor with. But like I said, do it however you want to do. This is not like a specific rule. This is just some inspiration. Obviously, the second thing you're going to need for your swatch sticks is the swatch sticks themselves. Again, I get these on Amazon from the same seller every time, and I typically buy them in batches of around 200 because I know myself and I know that I'm going to go through them. I buy the clear ones. They do have opaque ones. There's a lot of different variations on the tip and everything like that. This is my favorite because it's the most like my own nail. And you can also kind of like put it over your finger and see how it will look and things like that. But some people like the more opaque ones because it does kind of mimic your natural nail a little bit better. But for me, it's just clear all the way. The next thing you'll want for this method is a label maker, and I've been using this Dymo label maker since I started the process of organizing my stuff back in 2016. I started collecting in around 2015, and then in 2016 was when I decided to kind of get everything in order. I have used this for, at this point, 6 years now. I have used it not only for nail polish, but labeling other stuff in my home. And I actually changed the batteries for the first time like a month or 2 ago. Like, that's how energy efficient this guy is. This is definitely going to be the most expensive part of this step, but this is one of those things that you don't have to use it exclusively for your nail hobby. You can use it for a lot of things. I am a big labeler. I label a lot of stuff. So this has come in handy, not just in nail polish, but in tons of different aspects of my life. So, you know, even like you might even already have a label maker lying around, so you can use that as well. Initially, I did actually handwrite everything on the swatch stick with like a Sharpie, like a really fine print Sharpie. But what ended up happening was after I touched these and handled them so much, the natural oils from my hand started to break down the handwriting on the swatch stick. And it just looked really gross, and it like my handwriting wasn't super consistent either. So I ended up removing the ones I had already labeled with, I used some acetone and very lightly scrubbed it off, and then replaced it with labels. But you can handwrite it. I bet if you like put some kind of clear coat over it, you'd probably be okay. And then for the tape that I use, you can see on this particular one, I haven't put the swatch on it yet, but you can see that it is a clear label tape, and I use the 3/8 inch. The clear is more expensive. They do have an opaque white one and other colors and things like that. I just prefer the clear solely because of the appearance. I like that it looks like the text is printed pretty much directly onto the swatch stick. It's just a personal preference. And then the final thing that I need for my method is just these command hooks. I use these really itty bitty ones. I think that these are advertised for like hanging your keys by the door and stuff like that. And I think they hold technically like half a pound, but you get these strips here, and this is the wall side, and then you stick it up, and there is this little tab that sticks out, but it's really not so noticeable against my wall. I've noticed, like, I don't know, I think I'd block it out in my mind. But you don't need to hang them on the wall. If you want to store them in a drawer, you can. This is just another thing that I will link down below. This is what I use. This is how I hang them on the wall, and I haven't really had any issues with that. So just like with the previous portion of the video, I'm going to show you how I make a label, talk you through that, and then we'll kind of speed through the rest of the footage while I talk over it on the pros and cons of this method, as well as some potential alternatives. So let's make a label for Orly's It's Brittany Beach. This is a cream blue. So I just take my label maker, turn that guy on, maybe. And you can see I was using this before, and I just delete the last bit of text. I always use 0.10 font on this because I like the size of it. Again, you can see here, it's like dead center. It's fairly small, small enough to fit most things. So we're gonna do Orly. I put the brand name and then one space, and then I just spell out the polish. So it's Brittany. My nails are so long though that it does make it a little bit difficult to press some of the buttons sometimes. I think there's a comma in there. And you know, you have a full keyboard, you have accents you can add all kinds of punctuation and stuff like that. It's really easy to use. And then once your label is all set, you hit this button here, and that will print it out of the side, or sorry, out of the top actually. And then you have this little clip here, and that cuts the label. So we have one label here. Then we'll grab our swatch stick, and the way these labels work, they have a dual kind of peel off, and you can peel that sticker off. And on a lot of these swatch sticks, there's kind of like a notch right here, and that is where I line up the edge of the sticker, just so that it's in a pretty similar spot on every single one. So very carefully place it down, and then just kind of stick it on. And there you have it. It's Brittany Beach. And then what I do is I literally just take the polish, and I do 2 coats on every swatch stick, regardless of if it's a topper or not, because that way I know in my head, like, my baseline is 2 coats, and I can kind of add or subtract coats in my mind if I want to. Some people will put coats required for opacity, and they will denote that on their swatch stick. I don't do that because I just don't. I just prefer it this way. But yeah, once this dries, I will add a second coat, and then I will finish. That will be it for the swatch stick. So let's talk about the pros and the cons of this method. The initial pro for me is just these are so mobile and easy to move around and carry about a space. And so I really like that for comparing and like I showed you earlier, holding over my nail to see what a color might look like on me. I think like visually it's just the easiest option to compare. Some people swatch in like a book or something like that, and it's just harder to compare those versus pulling two swatch sticks off the ring and holding them immediately next to each other. And they can be stored in so many different ways. You can put them in a drawer, on the wall, in a cup, just depending on how many you have. You can really do whatever you want. They're very compact and very easy to put away. As for the cons, first of all, you have to replenish your supplies. You're going to run out of swatch sticks. You're going to run out of label tape. You have to be buying those, and typically in larger batches. So the buy-in could be steep for some people. Another con, like I mentioned earlier, it could look a little bit nail salon-y, I guess, to some people. Like mine hanging on my wall, some people probably think it looks really tacky. It probably does, but who doesn't love some tackiness? And adding colors can be really labor intensive if you wait too long. So if you wait to get a bunch, typing all those labels out, sticking them all on, painting 2 coats on everything, waiting for it to dry, and then putting those sticks into your swatch sticks, into your rings. If you like them in a specific order, that can be a huge undertaking. Usually I wait until I have like a large chunk of swatch sticks and then I put them into my swatch rings, and it ends up taking me a couple hours each time. For me, the order I have them on my rings in particular is I organize them by color. And then within that color category, I've tried to separate them out by finish. So like all the creams in one section, all the hollows in one section, all the glitters in one section. And then within those finishes, I go from darkest to lightest as best as I can. There are a lot of good alternatives to the swatch stick method. One thing I've seen are these things called, I think it's cabochons. They're like this little glass dot. They're like this little glass, or maybe some are acrylic, like clear dot that you can paint one side of. And then a lot of people glue them to the tops of their nail polish bottles. And looking through that glass, you can see the color that is in the bottle, which they look nice. But the problem is, I've seen that they don't fit on every type of bottle. If they have a domed cap on the bottle, they're definitely not gluing down. They can fall off. The pricing seems to vary. You can find good deals, but if you have a lot of polishes in your collection, that will be a steep buy-in. I've also seen these little like clip-on nails or bows or just a variety of different shapes, and you can paint those and they clip right onto your bottleneck. Again, they don't fit all the bottles, and some are more expensive than others depending on the shape. I've seen some really fun shapes, but the cooler the shape, typically the more expensive they seem to be. Another idea I had was, those white garage sale stickers that you can write the prices on? You could also just paint those and with your nail polish, and then once it dries, stick it somewhere on the bottle. This is a very cheap option. So if you have a lot of polishes, this might be a really cheap way to do something, but I can see potential wear and tear ruining the sticker over time, and it's not as cute as some of the other options. A notepad is also something you could use, similar to what we talked about in the inventory section, the Excel sheet section. You could always do something as simple as swatch it in a notebook you have and write the name of the polish next to it, and there you go. And the last thing I thought of, you could use a photo tagging system. This is something that is integrated into the app I talked about earlier, but you could just use some sort of photo tagging system, which could be good, but it just really depends on how color accurate your camera is and if you really care to spend a lot of time editing or anything like that, which for me particularly, I don't enjoy editing photos. I'm not very good at it. So I just find that the swatch sticks are going to be the most accurate color for me. Okay, so step number 4 is not so much like a step, but this is something that I've implemented on myself recently, and that is to take a swatch photo. Yes, I have another color reference. So here in my Google Drive, I keep all of my swatch photos in folders separated by brand. So like if you, I don't know, open up Bee's Knees Lacquer, I guess I can do it like this. You can see all my swatch photos of varying nail lengths and photo talent. And like Hollow Taco, you can see I have all of these here. And then, you know, some I don't have as many photos for. I only have one, but I do keep a folder for every single brand. And I really like this. I told you guys this is a rule I implemented at the beginning of the year, and that I need to swatch every polish before it gets put away in my drawers so that I can build up my swatch library here. And it's been going really well. So I take a swatch photo of every polish that comes in now and I save it in here in my swatch library. And this is just a personal hobby part for me. Not everyone will want to do this, but I have found that this has done a couple of positive things for me. As someone who talks about polish on YouTube, as I'm doing right now, it gives me a reference to put into my videos and show you guys and make my kind of talking head content less boring to look at. I know you don't want to look at me. It definitely makes the editing process easier when I already have the photos on hand, but also as a consumer, it has affected my spending habits. I feel like my hauls have gotten a little bit smaller because when I go to shop for polish, I think, well, I have to swatch all of these after I buy them before I can move on to the next thing. And it's really helped me evaluate on a deeper level if I really want it because I want to wear it or if I want it just to have it because I like it, you know, and that's really, it's made me recognize the things that I truly want in my collection. Not that it's, you know, not that my collection's any smaller, but it's helped me quite a bit. And I recommend if you have like a shopping problem or something like that, set a rule like this where you're like, I have to use X amount of stuff before I buy another thing, and kind of figure out, you know, why you feel like you need to buy all that stuff. But yeah, this has just been really nice for a lot of reasons, and it's helped me stock up my Instagram too. So, hey. Okay, so step 5 is storing your polishes. And if you watch my videos with any sort of regularity, this space will look pretty familiar to you because this is what is in the background of my videos. But my storage did not always used to look like this. So when I first got into polish, I used a small acrylic nail rack, just like the one you see in front of you for all my polishes, and that worked out for a little while. But then my polish collection kind of expanded and started to spill off the rack, and so I moved on to some boxes until I started looking at other people's options that they used, and overwhelmingly I saw Helmer's and like the Michael's knockoff, like the Melmer. And so I made the leap and I bought my very first Helmer, and I've been in the Helmer system ever since. So here's kind of the full view of my 4 Helmers. One thing I want to say, if you do go with the Helmer, the price has gone up recently. They used to be, when I first started buying them, I think they were like $60. Now they're 70, but they work really well for me. I will say, when you're going to build them, make sure you're in a open, clutter-free space where you can lay everything out. Otherwise, it's going to be really annoying because there are a lot of pieces and parts, but once you built your first one, it becomes very easy. And one other tip about building these before I get into the actual organization is you can see right here, there's a little tab, and that metal piece actually is supposed to push in. And so when you're pulling it out, it will stop right there. So the drawer can't be pulled out when you flip that tab in. However, if you see how much of the drawer you can pull out when that tab is pulled in, that's it. So you're losing a good like 4 inches of space in the back. So I like to not push those tabs in so I can remove the whole drawer whenever I want to. So let me talk to you about how I organize my space, and then I'll just show you me adding some of my polishes that need to be sorted into this system. And I will do a little bit of a voiceover talking about the pros and cons of everything like I've done in the past couple steps. So let's just go from left to right up here. On Helmer number 1, I have some of my polishes that don't fit in the drawers, or I just want to display because they're pretty or expensive polishes, and I just want people to see that I have expensive nail polish. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I want people to know I have the Christian Louboutin nail polish. It's not a secret. Like, it's expensive, and I want people to look at it and be like, wow, that's expensive, okay? And then we have on Helmer number 2, all of my excess oils that I don't have in any kind of roller ball right now, and I will use those to add to my roller balls as they empty out. Number 3, I just have a like a lamp that doesn't fit in any of the drawers, and then all of my removers. And then number 4, all of my top and base and treatment type stuff, and that's where I keep all that. And I also keep all my magnets on Helmer number 4. So I'm sure you can see on the drawers, there's these little tags on every single drawer with letters on them. And that is just denoting the brands that are going to be in there. So we have number through C. So that is going to be like from, what do we have? 786 Cosmetics here. And it goes through to C, China Glaze, which carries on to the next drawer. And, you know, so on and so forth. And then by brand, like within the brand, I go by color. So I go in like Roy G. Biv order, and you'll see me sort that out in a little bit. So you can see I have this full Helmer dedicated to that. Helmer number 2 is also fully dedicated to that. It goes through to S. Helmer number 3 has a full drawer here, S through Z. Then we have Z, which is like all Zoyas. And then we have another Z, which is again all Zoyas. It's almost full. Then I have a drawer just for gels. I keep that separate and I don't have as much. And that's all my gel stuff. And I would stick that little lamp in there if it would fit, but it doesn't, so it stays out and it looks kind of obnoxious. After the gel drawer, we do have all of my stamping polishes. Yeah, I do have this Maniology sticker on here. That's from a while ago. I might move that. I do have, you know, a lot of Maniology stamping polishes. That's like the main stamping brand that I'm fully aware of. If you guys have other stamping brands that are pretty good and you have some recommendations, let me know, because I'm not currently purchasing from them. Close that drawer. And then we have the minis drawer, which is obviously all minis. And the reason I keep the minis separate is just because they don't fit well with their full-size counterpart in the drawer. It really throws off the whole like vibe of the drawer. So I just keep them in this little drawer here. And then when I go to my spreadsheet to consult like what I want to wear, if it's a mini, it does say it's a mini in the notes, so I know to come to this drawer. Oh, and one thing I did want to mention that I really like in these drawers is this. I have talked about it. I showed you guys in a previous video. I don't know if you can tell. You can see this is like a rubbery mat that I cut down to size for each drawer to prevent the like sliding around of the polishes. And I mean, I just shook those, but look how long it took. So without that paper in there, the polishes do slide really well, or not well, like in a way you wouldn't want to, because this is like a metal, and so like the bottoms will glide across because they're glass. So putting that in has really changed a lot for me in a positive way, and it hasn't like peeled the labels off or anything. Like if I pull one of these up, you can see that label is still firmly, you can see that the label is still very well firmly affixed on there. Like nothing is having issues or anything like that. Because before I'd use some other contact paper and it ripped the labels right off the bottoms of the bottles. So then in the fourth Helmer, this is all just stuff. There's really no polish in here. Well, there's a couple in one drawer, but I'll show you. So the first drawer is all just my cotton, well, it says cotton balls. It used to have cotton balls. Now I like the cotton pads more. I've always liked the cotton rounds more. They're slightly more expensive. And then this is my stamping plates drawer. So you can see, sorry for the light, all my stamping plates. I've got my lint roller. I've got all my stamper type stuff in here. So that's all of that. This is my nail art drawer. So this book has like nail vinyls and like any kind of stickers. And then in the back, we have all of like my gemstone wheels. I've got fake nails, striping tape. I didn't know where to put these guys, so I just put them in there. And then the next drawer down is anything I have like extras of. So like all of my extra nail wheels, all of my backup polishes, extra rings, just like all my base coat, nail cuticle remover, all that kind of stuff. A box of Z-wide brushes. We have anything that I'm about to use for filming, which all of this is what I'm about to use for filming because I'm going to show you me putting all this stuff away. And then you can see, like, I pulled it out too far. And this is the big struggle with the Helmer, is if you don't lock that into place, that can happen. And then this drawer is for anything I got within the month, and I put it in here first so that I remember to swatch it, put it on a stick, anything like that, and then that's where it goes before I put it away. So I tend to put away all of my polishes at the end of each month after I have filmed my, complete monthly haul. And then I also have some miscellaneous stuff that I may have used in other videos that I just didn't put away yet. And so the very first thing that I tend to do when I have this many polishes to put away is I alphabetize them by brand, and then within that brand sort them by color, because that's how they're going into the drawer. So it just makes it a lot less time consuming to be digging through this big pile of polishes when they're already pre-sorted. I like to pre-sort them. So I have a lot of pros and cons for you on the Helmer system that I use. So let's start with the pros. First of all, a lot of polish fits into one full Helmer, and the Helmer itself is pretty compact. It's not too big. It has 6 drawers and a fully loaded drawer of just Zoyas. Like, let's just say Zoyas for a baseline. It will hold 84 Zoyas single stacked. Some people actually double stack their polishes in the drawers. I don't, because I like to be able to see everything. So even just a single stacked Zoya drawer, that's 84 polishes. That's a lot, like 84 times 6. Each Helmer will hold approximately 500 polishes on average. And I have found that to be quite true for me. So holds quite a lot. It's also a really nice unified storage solution. I really like it when everything kind of looks the same. And, because you get these at IKEA, it's very easy to pick them up. At least for me, I live very close to an IKEA. Not everybody does, unfortunately, so you'd have to pay for delivery. But the other nice thing is there's space on top for storage as well. As you saw, I store a lot of excess stuff on top, and it looks nice, at least in my opinion. Another pro for me, you can decorate them. Everybody slaps stickers on theirs. I make sticker magnets because I don't like to commit, so I can move the stickers around. I've done that in another video, but that's really nice. You can decorate them. You can leave them completely bare if you so choose. Another pro, I like the little drawer label slot. I know you probably think I'm like grasping at straws for pros, but I swear, like, I love that I can label each drawer so that I know exactly what is in each drawer. Another pro is they do come with wheels, and those wheels make it so you can move them around pretty easily. You can split them between rooms if you want. If you live in a smaller space, they are really functional in a smaller space. I previously lived in a 1-bedroom apartment that was the size of a shoebox, and I fit 3 Helmers in there. I didn't have the 4th one at that point, and it didn't seem obtrusive, especially because you could store stuff on top of them. As for the cons, a full drawer is heavy. Be very careful if you choose not to lock the drawers in, which, like, I have not done. If you drop one of these drawers on your feet, your foot is broken. Like, there's no arguing there. The other big con is the buy-in cost, and the shipping cost is pretty high if you need a lot of them. I think that when I was first buying Helmers, I think they were actually $40, not $50 like I said earlier. Now they're like $60 or $70 the last time I checked. And it's probably only going to keep going up from there, unfortunately. But once you buy them, I've never had to get rid of one. They have maintained pretty well. They seem to stay together pretty well. They're just pieces of sheet metal that you fold into a shape. It's really not too crazy. However, the shipping cost is probably where it will hit a lot of people. Like I said, I live fairly close to an IKEA. There's only one IKEA in my state as far as I'm aware, and that is located in Canton, Michigan. So I can drive over to IKEA and pick one up. If I'm feeling lazy, I could have it delivered for, they probably charge me $50 to deliver it, to be honest, even living that close. But if you live fairly far, I know it's a lot harder to get stuff like this, which really sucks. And I don't think that Michaels makes the Melmer version anymore, and those didn't really seem to hold up very well anyways. So what are some alternatives to this method? First of all, those little nail polish racks, the little acrylic one that I use for like base coats, top coats, and treatments, those are an option. That's what I used when I first got into polish. However, if you have a very large collection, the amount that you would need for your collection would be astronomical, and you'd need something to put them on, so you're kind of right back to square one. A bookshelf would also be great. You could put your racks on the bookshelf. You could build your own little racks out of like cardboard to display. And honestly, for me, I've found bookshelves fairly cheap at resale shops and on Facebook Marketplace and things like that. So you don't need to go brand new for this stuff. Those acrylic wall nail racks that a lot of people like, they require hardware installation and are a bit more maybe permanent, you might say. Like, at least for me, if I have to screw something in the wall, I'm like, man, I better be living here for a little while, because otherwise you got to fill in the holes and things like that. And the other thing, the big reason why I don't use acrylic nail racks is I like big windows. I like to keep the windows open. I like to let a little bit of sun in, and sun damage can happen to your nail polish. It can completely change the colors of them. And so I choose not to keep too many out where sun could get at them. I have a friend who uses soft cases. They're like, I think they're specifically for nail polish, and they're divided into slots on the inside, but they're these really soft, like zip up, I don't know if they're like made of cotton or some kind of cloth case, and then all her nail polishes go in there. And while she needs a few for her collection, the nail polishes are really well protected because each one is surrounded by, that soft fabric. And so that is another good option. I'm pretty sure she just gets them on Amazon. And actually, I used to just use a box. After I graduated from the acrylic nail rack, at Target, I found these Christmas ornament storage boxes. And I just used a bunch of those until it got so out of control that I had to get a Helmer. So there's lots of options here. One thing I will say about the Helmers is when your collection starts to grow, I heavily suggest learning from my mistake, which is always leave 1 to 2 rows of space at the back of every drawer if you are still buying nail polish. As you've probably noticed in this video, I had to move a lot of polishes around in each drawer as I was adding stuff, and then I had to carry them over and shift them into the next drawer, solely because there's just not enough space in each drawer because I've completely filled them. If you don't completely fill them, if you actively try to leave a little bit of space at the end, it'll be a lot easier to add polishes in later, and you won't have to keep offsetting to the next drawer. Obviously, I didn't do that. Part of the reason is I used to have that in my drawers, but I'm running out of space again. I'm not going to buy another Helmer. I'm going to figure it out. But it's just one of those things that I would heavily recommend, because otherwise it will take you like an hour or more to add new polishes in, just trying to shift everything from drawer to drawer to drawer to drawer. But yeah, that is my entire process from beginning to end. I buy the polish, I add it to the spreadsheet, I make a swatch stick, I take a swatch photo, and then I put it away into my storage. And if you guys have any questions or you want to see a more in-depth video on any facet of organization, let me know. I would love to put it together for you guys. I really love organization and I like sharing my organization with other people. I like to hear about other people's organization methods. So if you have your own tips, be sure to share it in the comments below so we can all benefit from each other's advice. I really love that everybody in my comments is so helpful to each other and shares everything with each other. I really appreciate that, you guys. So let's all share our hottest organization tips. Or if you are someone who's not into organizing, if you don't like to organize your collection, if you're one of those like chaos people, let me know, like, why do you enjoy that? How does that work for you? I'm always really interested when people are just like, and they fly by the seat of their pants. So that is going to be it from me with this way too long video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.